Yet another publisher has made an asinine move of making it so that their games won't run on the Steam Deck for no good reason. I could understand if it was an accident, but this is clearly not an accident. We're going to talk about that, plus how Microsoft might be inadvertently pushing publishers to support Linux. You know, it's not like something that they want to do, but it's something that I feel like they have to do. And I want to talk about how some upcoming tech could have a massive impact on handheld gaming. If that sounds good, get comfortable, get subscribed, and let's get started. Every month, Valve puts out the biggest games on the Steam Deck, the games where people are putting most of their time in. And every single month, we see a lot of the same games in a lot of these same top slots. The top slots switch around from time to time, and if there's a big release, it'll creep into that list for a little bit, but then it'll drop back down. But for the most part, we see the same games all the time. For instance, the top games in August are Black Myth, Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, Balatro, Diablo 4, Vampire Survivors, GTA 5, Slay the Spire, and Cult of the Lamb. Rewinding a bit to July, the top games were Elden Ring, Stardew Valley, Balatro, Baldur's Gate 3, No Man's Sky, Dave the Diver, Hades, GTA 5, Vampire Survivors, and Fallout 4. I'm sure that you noticed that a few games showed up on both of those lists, and honestly, that's how it goes. We tend to see some of these same games on the list every single month. And I don't know about you, but if I were a publisher and I was a publisher of a game that kept showing up on the list of most played games on Steam Deck, I would not make an arbitrary change to make it so that the Steam Deck users couldn't play my game. It's like free advertising. Valve keeps tweeting out every single month, these are the games that people are enjoying the most on the Steam Deck. Oh, my game's on there? Let's make sure that Steam Deck users can't use it. That's just goofy. But you know what's not goofy is checking out the sponsor of today's video, ANTLION MODMICs. Most gaming headphones kind of sound terrible, which is why I tend to buy studio monitors instead. They just sound so much better. My current favorite pair of headphones are the Shure SRH840A. They have one serious drawback: no microphone. That's where this comes in. This is the ANTLION Audio MODMIC USB. It's designed to attach to any pair of headphones, and because it's just a microphone, you can be sure that the R&D that went into making it all went towards getting you a fantastic sounding audio from your microphone. In fact, this whole segment has been recorded using the MODMIC with no sound processing at all. Sure, I could get a gaming headset that has a built-in microphone, but those usually sound pretty bad and the mics are almost always terrible. And then you're stuck with a microphone constantly sticking out of the side, whether you need it or not. If I'm not gaming, I can easily take off the mic thanks to this magnetic clip. The mic has an inline mute switch, so you can turn it off if you need to have a private conversation while you're gaming. It also comes with these little clips. These clips are what I use to put it on your headset wire and then make sure your MODMIC's extra wire just kind of disappears while you're using it. The MODMIC comes in two versions, one that has USB and another one that's 3.5mm traditional audio headphone jack. So if you want to get some great studio monitors, but you've been avoiding doing that because they don't have a microphone, use the link in the description down below that like button and pick up a MODMIC for yourself. And if you do pick one up, let me know in the comments as well which one you bought and what headphones you're going to be pairing it with. Big thanks to ANTLION for sponsoring this video. All right, back to what I was saying. Which of these games is no longer going to work on your Steam Deck? Take a second and guess. Leave a comment down below with the game that you think is going to get the old heave-ho from these lists. Be honest. No cheating. I'll wait. You got it? You made your guess? Okay, here's the answer. It's Grand Theft Auto 5. Yeah, Rockstar recently announced that they are moving to BattlEye anti-cheat. And here's the quote, which I found over at Gaming on Linux. Is BattlEye compatible with Steam Deck? Steam Deck does not support BattlEye for GTA Online. You will still be able to play GTA 5 Story Mode, but unable to play GTA Online. Note that GTA 5 and GTA Online are not officially supported on Steam Deck, and all technical support questions should be directed at Valve's Steam Deck support content and community. First of all, that is ridiculous. This game has been out for years, and to suddenly shove new anti-cheat onto it that breaks the game for a bunch of people that are playing, and it's not a small number of people. It's a lot of people because it's one of the top games on Steam Deck. So to break that on purpose is just dumb. So first of all, I have to point out that they are wrong, and BattlEye anti-cheat does in fact work on Linux, though it is on an opt-in basis. Essentially, the devs have to change like a line or two of code and then it'll work. But Rockstar has decided we don't need the Steam Deck, so they won't make the ridiculously simple change. In fact, we were talking about it on the latest episode of the NerdNest podcast. By the way, if you want to make sure that you never miss an episode of the show, click on subscribe and turn on alerts. I rebooted the NerdNest podcast about 71 episodes ago, and since then, the show has been watched 1.5 million times. But back to GTA. There really isn't a good reason for BattlEye anti-cheat not to work on Linux. It's a very easy fix, as shown by all of the games that use it and run on Steam Deck. Games like DayZ, Escape from Tarkov, PUBG, The Division 2, Rainbow Six Siege, Warhammer Vermintide 2, and a bunch of others. This is clearly Rockstar deciding that they don't care about people that use the Steam Deck. They aren't the players that they want playing their game. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why they would want fewer people playing their game. It's true, GTA is one of the all-time greatest selling games, so you could argue they don't need the Steam Deck users. You could argue that they already got their money, so they don't care if they alienate Steam Deck users, and you would probably be right on both parts. Clearly, Rockstar doesn't need Steam Deck users, but whether or not they need them is beside the point. It is still a dick move, and I hope that they change their mind, but I don't think that that's something that we're going to see happening. Speaking of anti-cheat, we got some news that might be considered good news when it comes to anti-cheat and Linux, and it's coming from a place you might not expect: Microsoft. First, we got to rewind so that we're all on the same page. A few years back, Microsoft wanted to make sure that third-party developers didn't have access to the kernel. They were rebuffed by devs and European governments, and of course, things went really badly. Fast forward to earlier this year, and basically everything broke thanks to a bug in the Crowdstrike software, which, you guessed it, had access to the kernel. It was causing blue screens of death all over the world. After that happened, Microsoft said that they were interested in restricting access to the kernel again, and then this week they said this: both our customers and ecosystem partners have called on Microsoft to provide additional security capabilities outside of kernel mode, which, along with SDP, can be used to create highly available security solutions. At the summit, Microsoft and partners discussed the requirements and key challenges in creating a new platform which can meet the standards of security vendors. So perhaps Microsoft will have more luck moving third-party access out of the kernel now that they have proof that it can cause problems. So what does this mean for video games? Well, kernel-level anti-cheat could become a thing of the past, which seems like it has the potential to be big news for people who play games on Linux, because then publishers will use anti-cheat that doesn't access the kernel, and it's more likely to work on Linux, although I don't know that it's the slam dunk that everyone is saying it was. I mean, at first I thought that it would be, but we already have publishers like Rockstar that are making games not work on Linux for what seems like no good reason. So while it is possible that this could make gaming on Linux easier for people like you and me who want to play games on their Steam Deck, I'm skeptical that we will actually see any publishers change, even though they should and they easily can. I guess the only thing that we can do is vote with our wallets. And I got to be honest, if you bought GTA 5 in order to play it on your Steam Deck, and suddenly they made this change, well, then you should probably reach out to Valve and say, hey, listen, I bought this to play on my Steam Deck, and now I can't play this on my Steam Deck, and it's because of this anti-cheat stuff. I would like a return. Moving on, between DLSS, XESS, FSR, PSSR, ASR, there are a lot of solutions to the same problem, and that is getting the most frames out of your games. Back in the day, things were simpler. You would set your resolution, and if you set your resolution too high, you lose out on frames. If you set it too low, you get more frames, but with crappy visuals. But with game engines supporting variable resolutions, just setting your game to 720p, 1080p, 1440p, or 4K is a little more nebulous than it used to be in the past, which brings us back to that alphabet salad that I said at the beginning of this segment. Upscaling. Essentially, running games at lower resolutions in order to get higher frame rates, but then upscaling the low-res gameplay in a way that makes it look like it's running at a higher resolution, even if it isn't.
Enhance 34 to 36.
I mean, when movies like this came out, people that understood how resolution works laughed at this stuff because it was ridiculous. But now it seems like it's almost possible, and everyone seems to want to do it. In fact, all of the big names in gaming tech have some kind of solution for it, which tells me that this is a really important thing to the future of gaming, though some of them do work better than others. First of all, I want to talk about what we have access to now. Then I want to talk about what's coming down the pipe and why I'm excited for this. And please keep in mind that I am trying to keep this as simple as possible. So if I get something wrong, like there's nuance there, chalk it up to the fact that I'm taking a complicated idea and making it as simple as I can. Or perhaps I'm getting it wrong, not just nuance, in which case feel free to correct me in the comments down below that like button. That way we can all learn together. Right now, the best version of this, in my experience, is DLSS from NVIDIA. DLSS, which stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling, is NVIDIA's solution to upscaling. The game is rendered at a lower resolution than your native resolution of your display. And then, because the tensor cores of the graphics cards have AI capabilities, they use AI, I'm doing a lot of quotes here, to upscale that from a lower resolution to a higher resolution. And if everything is done right, you shouldn't be able to tell during gameplay that it was originally a lower resolution image. This means we should get a big benefit to frame rate, as games would run at lower resolutions, higher frame rates, but still look really crisp. However, it doesn't always work well. If you're going from a really low resolution to a really high resolution, the tensor cores don't have enough information to work with, and you'll start to see artifacting, excessive pixelation, especially in areas that have fine detail like hair and foliage. No need to worry about that here with me. You may also see blurry visuals if the action is too fast or if it's really, really dark. You'll also see very high contrast issues because the high contrast makes it easier for us to see all of the things that are falling apart. The other versions of this, XESS, PSSR, and ASR, and FSR, they all do the same thing but with slight variations. So for example, PSSR, which stands for PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, requires the new PS5 Pro. FSR is AMD's solution, which is hardware agnostic, so it doesn't really matter what hardware you have. And ASR is Microsoft's new version of this, which they're still working on as far as I know. Another thing that these companies like to use is frame generation, which basically looks at the past few frames and then makes a guess as to what the next frame is going to look like in order to increase your frame rates. The reason I'm bringing all of this up is because AMD just announced that they're working on FSR 4, and they want to specifically target handhelds with FSR 4. Here's what they said. On the handheld side, my number one priority is battery life. If you look at the Asus ROG Ally or the Lenovo Legion Go, it's just that the battery life is not there. I need multiple hours. I need to play Black Myth Wukong for 3 hours, not 60 minutes. Essentially, they want to use FSR and frame generation along with dedicated AI cores in future chips to maximize battery life on power-constrained hardware like the Steam Deck, ROG Ally, Lenovo Legion Go, that kind of thing. Here's where he continues. This is where frame generation and interpolation come in. So this is the FSR 4 that we're adding. We completely pivoted the team 9 to 12 months ago to go AI based. So now we're going AI based frame generation, frame interpolation, and the idea is to increase efficiency to maximize battery life. And then we could lock the frames per second. Maybe it's 30 frames, maybe it's 35 frames. But now it's important to note that it is currently FSR. The way that it works is hardware agnostic, so it works on whatever hardware that you happen to have. This newer version of FSR might require specific hardware that doesn't exist yet. So what systems is this going to work on? Well, like I said, some parts of FSR 4 might work on whatever hardware you have, but then when newer hardware comes out in the next few years, that could have significant improvements to game performance and battery life based on this new tech. And good news, pretty much, not all, but almost all of the handhelds that are out there have AMD chips in it. The Van Gogh chipset that the Steam Deck uses is an AMD chipset. It's just customized. The Lenovo Legion Go, ROG Ally, ROG Ally X, and I think most of the other ones, with the exception of the Claw, I could be wrong about that, but most of them use AMD's Z1 Extreme chip. So if you get this new tech, especially if devs start focusing on it, you might get really good frame rates at low power. Now, some people might say the devs should focus on getting their games to work as well as they can without upscaling first, and then use upscaling to push it just a little bit farther. Some people worry the devs will use upscaling as a crutch. But I say, as long as we can get decent frame rates, decent battery life, and decent visuals, we win, and it doesn't matter if it's real or fake. And speaking of winning, it would be a huge win for me if you would check out this video right here. YouTube seems to think that you're going to love it. And don't forget to support the NerdNest sponsors down below that like button. Thanks for watching, and stay rad, everyone. Bye-bye.